Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome High Commissioner Dr. Karen Mayhill as she presents the Caribbean Security.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. And I realize I stand between all of you and lunch. Well, I'll try my best to keep you engaged on a topic I'm particularly excited and passionate about. Excellencies, friends, my dear friend David, good afternoon. Good afternoon. You know, I want to just acknowledge a landmark event that took place in 2022 on the 7th of September. Does everybody know what that day is, 7th September, every year? It's actually called Africa CARICOM Day. We had the first ever Africa CARICOM Summit. And my Prime Minister, Honorable Gaston Brown, actually called for that day to be permanently called that, and for an annual summit of the heads of Africa and CARICOM, the Caribbean community, to meet. And so what David is doing here today is actually building on a commitment that our heads have made to bring all the leaders together and our people together at various levels. And I want to commend him for his vision, and I'm delighted to support him. So for many, many years, the Caribbean has articulated the importance of diversifying the thing that we're known best for, which is what? Sand, sea, and sun, tourism. We have seen how a single event like a hurricane, a vector-borne disease, a pandemic as the one we had just a few years ago, can literally shut down your industry and shut it down in an environment where access to financing, whether concessional financing or aid, is not readily available. In my view, the pandemic presented one of the greatest challenges to our economic survival of the region. And it shows why an over-reliance on tourism in its purest classic sense is just not wise. I often describe coronavirus as striking with the force of Category 5 hurricanes, because it did several things. It diverted limited government resources to prop up our health systems, and then we saw a suppression of appetite in the source markets like here. We could travel. Nobody was traveling. Nobody could travel. And although today I'm being told that figures have rebounded, and we're seeing record numbers of people come to the islands thanks to weather like the one we're having outside, we cannot ignore the vulnerability issues of Caribbean states. So what then are our options? And I want to speak to you briefly today about something that surrounds the Caribbean, that lends itself to sand, sea, and sun, but more than just about coming for a holiday on the beach. It's called the Caribbean Ocean Economy, or the Blue Economy. Let's take this forward. The oceans have played a vital role in how we have developed. People have alluded to transatlantic slave trade. People alluded to our tourism sector. It's always been a part of who we are as Caribbean people. And like I said earlier, when you think of outside looking nice and dry but fiercely cold, the Caribbean's competitive advantage in tourism remains undisputed. But the World Bank is suggesting that the ocean economy in the Caribbean generated gross revenues in the 2016-17 period of over $407 billion. Just to let that sink in. Now, why is that important? It's important because this is equivalent to 14.7% of the estimated value of global ocean economy. And it's also significant because the Caribbean Sea where we live in represents less than 1% of the global area for oceans. So we are already disproportionately generating more income from our ocean economy than our size says that we should. So should we be focusing more on how we exploit that ocean economy? My answer is yes. The OECD, which we all know, the Organization for Cooperation and Development, estimates that by 2030, ocean industries will employ 40 million full-time equivalent jobs, with the fastest growth expected in offshore wind energy, marine aquaculture, fish processing, and port activities. Now, Antigua and Barbuda, as is true for most of our Caribbean region, is characterized as a SID, a small and developing state. And we know about SIDs, that we all share particular characteristics, that constrain the way that we can develop. Economies of scale being one of that. Vulnerability and shocks. People tend to think the Caribbean is just too small for scalable investments. People think the Caribbean doesn't have enough of a risk profile rating. Antigua doesn't have any profile rating. They can't go on Standards and Poor's on Moody and find a rating. And some investors think that profile, coupled with economies of scale, doesn't make it worth it. Our task as a region is to debunk those perceptions about the realities of the modern Caribbean. The Caribbean can attract credible, high-quality blue investments. Now let's see how we do that. Antigua's combined landmass is 440 kilometers squared. What did I say? 440 kilometers squared. Tiny, little islands and rocks in the water. That's all the land we have. But our exclusive economic zone, the ocean territory we control, that belongs to Antigua, is over 110,000 kilometers squared. That's our ocean space. So instead of us just merely being smaller and developing states, we are actually large ocean states. And that ocean has a value. That ocean is holding secrets with respect to industries that we have underdeveloped. Just a few quick examples to share with you around what that could look like as well. The Eastern Caribbean states, I know we have our ambassadors in the Eastern Caribbean who will speak, has developed something called the Eastern Caribbean Regional Oceans Policy, the ECROP. And this actually helps us in the smaller islands to guide and plan our policies around exploiting the ocean. Another example, in 2016, Antigua and Barbuda actively joined the Commonwealth Marine Economies Program, with receiving the first ever blue map for the region. And just this year in Samoa, if you follow the news around the heads of government meeting, which took place just last month in the Pacific, we joined the 55 countries of the Commonwealth to sign the first ever Commonwealth Oceans Declaration. Why is oceans important to the Commonwealth? Because 49 of the 56 Commonwealth member states are bordered by oceans. And my friend from Rwanda isn't here. He has no oceans. I always tease him about that, although he has lakes. Secondly, collectively, we hold in the Commonwealth more than 1/3 of all marine waters under Commonwealth jurisdictions. We are home to half of the world's coral reefs, and we are home to 1/3 of the world's mangroves. Isn't that important? Isn't that value? Now, Antigua and Barbuda has proudly launched the first ever Center of Excellence for Oceanography and the Blue Economy. We launched it in May at the 4th UN Small States Conference. And that center will be driving research that will inform government policy and actions, especially in the Eastern Caribbean sub-region, around how we exploit the ocean economy, as Sustainable Development Goal 14 speaks about. Already I can share that the Channel Islands, Jersey, that we formed a strong link with, will be sending 3 or 4 researchers to join the university campus in Antigua next summer to continue their PhD research on reef restoration work in the Caribbean. In 2016, if I could use another Eastern Caribbean island, Grenada produced a blue growth coastal master plan, which is Grenada has a landmass of 385 kilometers squared, but they own 27,426 kilometers of ocean space. Not as much as Antigua, but they own some. Let's take Barbados. In 2018, Barbados established its first Ministry of Maritime Affairs and the Blue Economy. And Barbados' maritime space covers 186,898 kilometers. Their landmass is 431 kilometers squared. And the Barbadian government has recognized, as has our government in Antigua and Barbuda, that that maritime space provides an opportunity to advance the economic growth of our countries. And I quote the Barbados Minister of the Blue Economy as saying that our blue economy understanding in the region is underdeveloped, fragmented, and unexplored. One more country, Dominica. Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt in 2019 established a Ministry of the Blue and Green Economy. And Dominica's landmass is 750 kilometers squared, and they control nearly 29,000 kilometers squared of ocean space. And if I could just close off by just sharing the areas where this development investment needs to look at, according to all the experts who have done, by the way, too many reports on our shelves in the region. And I keep saying to people, please send no more consultants. We want no more reports to line the shelves. Let's not bring capital to meet the project. But we have also got to bring the oven-ready projects to meet the investors. And here are the areas that all the reports are saying the Caribbean needs to be telling the world. All of you here today, come, look, see, and invest. We're talking about marine energy sources. We're talking about things like wave energy, tidal energy, ocean thermal energy conversion, offshore and floating wind energy, green hydrogen, marine biomass energy, and of course research, academia into what we can do with our oceans, which is largely untapped. I saw a statistic which has changed in recent times, but it said we've mapped 95% of the surface of the moon. You know, it's on the moon in every crater and crevice. We've mapped less than 5% of the ocean space. We don't know what's under there. So the pharmaceuticals, in terms of energy. And so I want to present to you for consideration as you leave the summit today, that when you plan your next holiday, which I hope will be in January, February, as the weather deteriorates here, to the Caribbean, enjoy the sun, sea, and sand, but don't pigeonhole us into a space just for that. See the Caribbean as a massive pool of ocean potential that our people and the world needs to come into. We need fish farms to feed the world. We're told that by 2050, land-based protein will not be enough to feed the human population if it continues the way it does. It's going to have to come from the oceans, and apparently insects. And you guys can eat the insects, I'd rather not. Somebody said yes over here. We're in pole position in the Caribbean to join with Africa and the rest of the world to develop our ocean economy. But we must not allow that development to be driven only from the outside. So I'm pleased to see the academic work being developed in our own region to inform our governments how to meet the world as it comes to us. We want to make sure that Africa and the Caribbean are riding the crest of the blue economy wave, not merely turning up to work for the people who come to invest, but that we are there as investors in our own rights, understanding our resources, whinging less about the past, and focusing more on where we can take our people and our region. And I will close there and thank you all for listening. Please know that in April next year, I'll be convening with my minister an Impact Investment Summit, looking at how we can meet oven-ready projects with investors interested in the blue economy, in waste to energy recycling, in recycling tires and cars, stripping them down into making products. There are oven-ready opportunities for the designing investor. I'll leave it there. Look forward to seeing you in the network. I don't like to speak long, and I hope I didn't bore you, but please enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.